Good evening. It's Monday, December 23rd. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. For holiday travelers and last-minute shoppers, it's not the holiday weather on their wish list. Pounding rain and flooding led to numerous accidents and rescues. And this is just the first of two storms coming our way. KPBS reporter Shalina Chatlani begins our coverage.
That's right, Maya, and there's going to be even more rain throughout the week coming up right to the Christmas holiday. That means that drivers are going to need to be more careful on the road. In fact, I'm here with Officer Jake Sanchez with the California Highway Patrol. He says that areas like this are more common for crashes to happen. Why is that the case?
Anytime we have a curved roadway on a wet surface, you're going to have less imprint on the roadway, meaning your outside tires are going to have problems, because if you're going too fast into that curve, you're going to lose control of that car. So just want you to be prepared for that. Know where those major interchanges are, those on and off ramps are, so you can get to your destination safely. Make sure you slow down. And again, 65 doesn't mean 65 when you don't have ideal conditions like today.
Officer Sanchez says San Diego doesn't get a lot of rain, so people aren't prepared. On a sunny day, there are typically around 70 crashes. But when it rains, he says there can be 300 to 400 crashes. Sanchez says especially with the holiday season, as people head to shopping malls and travel to see their families, there will be more cars on the road. And already, some residents are seeing the effects of the weather and high traffic.
It was super dark, it was raining, windshield wipers going nuts.
San Diego resident Nico, who didn't want to say his last name, was driving in Pacific Beach earlier this morning.
And I was just driving through the intersection like you do, and I noticed that it was pushing a lot of water, and then that was kind of that. It was just a lot of water, and suddenly the car stopped.
Nico was able to get out, but at the time, he still couldn't get his car to start.
This is the busiest time of the year for our malls, like off of Friars Road and on the 163. You have the 805 in Bonita, and you have the 15 up at Villa Rancho Parkway, where we have these major malls, and people are going to be going to take their gifts back. So slow down, be prepared, understand that there's going to be traffic at those locations, and get to your destination safely.
So if you're out there doing your holiday shopping at the last minute, remember that it's safer for you to take your time. Shalina Chatlani, KPBS News.
And a lot is being done right now to bring the homeless in from the rain. The Housing Commission is expanding shelters due to the winter conditions. Father Joe's Villages and Connections Housing will accommodate more than 160 additional people. The move comes as more rain moves in. Here's KPBS meteorologist Aji Aswad with a look at conditions right now.
Stormy conditions across the southwest for today. That does include us here in Southern California. Moisture will continue to press further to the east into Nevada as our low pressure system moves out to the east into the next several hours. We do have a winter weather advisory for Wrightwood and Big Bear Lake. Outside of that, in San Diego County, we remain on the rain side of things. But earlier on the radar, we had some heavy downpours come through, and that did afford us some pretty heavy rainfall totals as of Monday morning. 1.54 inches of rain for Malton Peak. Also seeing an impressive amount of rain for Laguna Beach, 1.42 inches of rain. And here at the San Diego International Airport, 1.72 inches of rain as of your Monday morning. As we continue through this evening, heaviest continues to stream a little further out to the east of San Diego proper, but Mount Laguna, Borrego Springs cannot rule out the chance for some showers. More details on what to expect in our next chance of wet weather for this holiday week.
And if you're flying out for the holidays, it never hurts to call ahead to the airport to check for delays or cancellations. Flights are back to normal now at both Sacramento and San Diego International airports. Over the weekend, though, problems started when an internet outage shut down the booking system in Sacramento. Flights up and down the West Coast were hard hit, especially here in San Diego. Many flights finally got back on track early this morning. And holidays mean holiday travel, and AAA of Southern California is expecting 8 million people to take to the roads. The busiest times are between now and New Year's Day. AAA says make sure your car is in good working order before you take that road trip.
Check the tires, the tire tread, and the inflation. Check your headlights and your taillights to make sure that all the bulbs are working. You want to also check your battery level, make sure it's fully charged, your fluid levels. It's also important with rain anticipated this holiday season leading into Christmas that you make sure that that car, particularly the tires, are in good working order to maintain traction on wet roads.
And AAA says just as you maintain your vehicle, you want to maintain yourself as the driver. That means get good sleep, don't drive intoxicated, and don't drive intoxicated, meaning smartphones behind the wheel can be just as deadly as alcohol-impaired driving. The impeachment process is on hold for the holidays, but new details are emerging about the central issue of when and why military was withheld from Ukraine. Kristen Holmes has the story.
Democrats renewing calls for witnesses in President Trump's Senate impeachment trial, following the release of emails that show the order to freeze aid to Ukraine came about 90 minutes after President Trump's July 25th phone call with Ukraine's new president. The 146 pages of heavily redacted government emails were obtained by the Center for Public Integrity. One email between White House budget official Mike Duffy and the Pentagon says, "Based on guidance I have received and in light of the administration's plan to review assistance to Ukraine, please hold off on any additional DoD obligations of these funds." Duffy adding, "Given the sensitive nature of this request, I appreciate your keeping that information closely held to those who need to know to execute direction."
If there was ever an argument that we need Mr. Duffy to come testify, this is that information. This email is explosive.
A spokeswoman for the budget office writes in a statement to CNN, "It's reckless to tie the hold of funds to the phone call. To pull a line out of one email and fail to address the context is misleading and inaccurate." But critics say the emails are further proof that key administration officials should testify in the Senate trial.
If the president is so innocent and claims he's innocent, why would he not allow, just like Richard Nixon did, the people that were closest to him to testify?
Lawmakers are away from Washington for the next 2 weeks as the impeachment battle is at a standstill. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is still refusing to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate until the Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and the Minority Leader Chuck Schumer agree on the trial's format and scope.
She is focusing a spotlight on the need to have a fair trial in the United States Senate.
Trump's Republican allies blasting Pelosi for the move.
She's actually trying to tell Mitch McConnell how to run the Senate. She's trampling on the separation of powers.
One White House official saying the delay is frustrating the president.
He's also anxious to get not just acquitted, but exonerated in the Senate. So he's looking forward to his opportunity to have a fair trial in the Senate.
And some Democrats are frustrated, too, saying McConnell and the GOP have already made up their minds before the start of the trial.
He's not interested in evidence. He's not interested in the facts. He wants to get this over with. That's really a serious problem.
And that was Kristen Holmes reporting. It's not a sure thing that all Democrats would vote to convict Trump in the Senate. Alabama's Doug Jones, who is up for re-election next year, says he is open to explanations that could prove the president's innocence. Retired Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher met President Trump at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend to thank him for taking up his controversial case. Photos show Gallagher, who was once based here in Coronado, and his wife Andrea chatting with the president and First Lady at the swanky Palm Beach resort. Gallagher reportedly thanked the president by giving him a gift from Gallagher's deployment in Mosul. And for the first time, National Guard troops serving along the border will earn credit toward GI Bill benefits. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says the change comes after an intense lobbying effort.
Secretary of Defense Mark Esper released a letter saying that National Guard troops who served along the border will now earn time toward GI Bill benefits, including the California National Guard. It's a major change, says Frank Yoakum, executive director of the Enlisted Association for National Guard troops.
When they're on active duty, the benefits have got to be the same.
Even though the Trump administration authorized sending troops to the border, Guard troops were not earning credit toward receiving federal benefits. Yoakum's group lobbied Congress and the Pentagon to push for the change.
Nobody's complaining about the duty. Nobody's complaining about serving their country. It's just the fairness of if we're going to serve side by side with people on active duty with the same benefits.
The change allowed Guard troops to earn credit towards qualifying for education and other benefits under the post-9/11 GI Bill. California was one of the states which ultimately pulled troops from the operation. The ruling is retroactive to February 19, the date of the presidential declaration. Approximately 3,400 Guard troops have served along the southwest border since the operation began. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
As President Trump continues to negotiate a truce to his trade war with China, tariffs are still impacting many here in San Diego, among them the fishing industry. More now from KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman.
They are different than the Maine lobsters in that they do not have large claws on them. We have males and females.
These so-called spiny lobsters are caught right off the coast.
Most of these are right off San Diego, off Point Loma, off La Jolla.
But even though they're caught locally, the majority of them are shipped overseas.
Most of our lobsters throughout the year are sent to China.
That's because in China, these are considered a delicacy and they're willing to pay a premium.
Particularly for the Asian market, they want a perfect lobster.
But we are in a trade war with China. Last year, a 25% tariff was placed on lobsters by China, and ahead of this season, that jumped to 35%.
This year, the price has been a little bit lower from the Chinese buyers, so our fishermen get paid a little lower, but as a result, we can sell them a little bit less here.
When this year's season opened in October, the price fishermen were seeing off the docks was just $11 per pound, a drastic drop from the nearly $20 a pound fishermen were seeing just a couple of years ago.
Once I found out what the opening price was going to be, I kind of quit my hunt for a different captain to run the other boat.
For the last 8 years, John Conniff has been lobster fishing, but it just wasn't worth it for him this year.
It's only a 6-month season, so if you were going to go out and try to make a year's worth of wages in 6 months at $11 a pound, it'd be really, really tough to do.
Conniff says he plans to be back lobster fishing next year, but he worries that tariffs could have a lasting effect on San Diego's lobster industry.
There's other places that countries like China can go to get their seafood from, and the further they develop those markets, the less need they're going to have for ours once the tariffs go away.
I like this lobster hands down over the Maine lobster.
Catalina Offshore Products is still selling San Diego caught lobsters to China just for less now.
We're not necessarily worried because we have a great product.
With tariffs driving prices down, locals can get good deals on spiny lobsters too.
It's about $10 a pound cheaper than I've seen in years past. Yeah, it's a great time to buy lobsters.
Conniff is hoping that this means more people will support local fishermen.
There's only, give or take 240 lobster fishermen between San Diego and Santa Barbara. So it's a small community, and I'd like to think that what we catch, there's a home for here locally, if we could just raise awareness for that.
The local industry is hoping that the tariffs are lifted soon and prices stabilize. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A 37-year-old man is recovering tonight after being bitten by a shark while surfing this weekend near Santa Rosa Island. A Coast Guard helicopter crew quickly transported the man to the Santa Barbara airport, where medics then rushed him to the hospital. The surfer's friend told officials he managed to put a tourniquet on his leg to stop the bleeding. The surfer is in stable condition. San Diego cut its carbon footprint by 3% in 2018, according to a city report released today. This means the city met its 2020 climate goals 2 years ahead of schedule. But certain areas of the city's climate action plan are still falling short. Transportation accounts for more than half the city's greenhouse gas emissions, and those emissions from cars and trucks are going up. San Diego Sustainability Director Cody Hooven says some of the city's climate strategies, like planning for compact, walkable neighborhoods near public transit, would take some time to bear fruit.
You won't see the impacts of those policy changes for several years because you now have to build things under that new policy directive. So it'll take some time, but I think we're going to see huge benefits from those policies that we've been moving forward lately.
Another problem area for the city is waste reduction. San Diegans sent more waste to landfills in 2018 than they did in the year before. Climate change will be the focus of a special edition of KPBS Midday Edition tomorrow. It airs at noon on KPBS Radio, and you can stream anytime on the KPBS Midday Edition podcast. Chollas Creek will be getting some much-needed restorations in the coming years, thanks to a big grant from the state. KPBS reporter Joe Hong spoke with city leaders about the upcoming changes.
Behind a fenced-off area, water rushed through Chollas Creek in the City Heights neighborhood Tuesday morning after several hours of rain. In a couple years, residents will be able to enjoy the creek up close, thanks to a $3.5 million grant from the California Natural Resources Agency. San Diego City Council President Georgette Gomez made the announcement along with community leaders today. She said the money will help restore long-neglected habitat and better connect residents to nature in a neighborhood with some of the least park access in the county.
It's about making it more walkable, and hopefully there's some lighting inserted as well, so it's safe for the public to feel that they can come. It's inviting.
The money will pay for removing concrete from the creek and adding walkways, bike paths, and native plant life alongside a half-mile segment of Choyas Creek that runs beside Highway 94. The state awarded the grant to the nonprofit Groundwork San Diego. Gomez sees the funding as an early step toward a much bigger goal. She envisions a network of parks spanning from Lemon Grove to the San Diego Bay.
So this is a big area that we're talking about, and a very significant area when we're successful in really restoring that whole area, activating it, revitalizing it. It could be a blueprint that can be taken for other big restoration projects.
While there's no time frame for that regional park, the Choyas Creek segment is expected to be completed within 3 years. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the killing and the kingdom. Saudi Arabia sentences 5 to die for the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A holiday surprise for an 11-year-old brain tumor survivor. Speak City Heights reporter Ebony Monet shows us how his elementary school and a community group came together to support the student and his family just in time for Christmas.
Carla Asuna shares a laugh with her children and some new friends. She says this joyful moment comes just weeks after her most difficult.
It was horrible. I just felt like my world just came crumbling down and there was nothing I could do.
Osuna's 11-year-old son, Brandy, is recovering from surgery to remove brain tumors.
He's 11, just to have to go through all that and try to understand all that. And the only thing I would be able to do is support him.
Brandy is a student at John Marshall Elementary School in City Heights. The school is the most recent to take part in a Love City Heights beautification project with the installation of brightly colored murals. The organization also gave Brandy and his family a special holiday surprise, about 25 bags of groceries and toys. Carlos Cazada is the group's co-founder.
That's how we're able to give back to the community, not only through art, but through providing resources for families and communities.
Cazada says adopting one family at every partner school is a way of saying thank you to the community. The Osunas were recommended by a school counselor.
My hope is that they feel loved and supported, and I think that was achieved today, and I just want them to have some normalcy.
The Osunas say they feel grateful.
It's wonderful that there's people that are willing to help you, willing to bring you joy, you know what I mean? It's wonderful.
And what's even better than the gifts, Brandy hasn't experienced seizures in nearly a month.
Okay, bye.
Ebony Monet, KPBS News.
The county is issuing an advisory for beaches and bays for urban storm runoff. The rain we're seeing this week could raise bacteria levels. Let's go back now to Daji Aswad with our forecast.
We have some strong energy moving through the region for tonight. That gives us a chance for some thunderstorms and spots dropping down to 51 degrees. And that is not only here in San Diego, but out into Oceanside. We've also seen some pretty heavy rain activity throughout much of our Monday. Tonight cooling down to 45 degrees and also the likelihood for some thunderstorms at the coast. As you head into the interior areas, it will be wet and gloomy. 42 in Borrego Springs, 34 in Mount Laguna. And into Mount Laguna, well, in those higher elevations, could perhaps see some snowflakes trying to develop. We will have to keep an eye on that. That low will continue to track to our north and east there, bringing rain and perhaps chance of snow across Nevada and portions of the Four Corners. We remain in this mostly rain zone for San Diego County as we move through your Tuesday, which is Christmas Eve. So it's going to be a soggy Christmas Eve for San Diego as well as Oceanside with highs in the lower 60s, perhaps a better chance for some sun and Borrego Springs with a high at 65, 41 in Mount Laguna, and still calling for some wet conditions to roll through. So for your Monday night, we are watching wet weather out to portions of the interior areas, Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna, and that will continue to usher off. Then as we move into your Tuesday, some dry breaks with a showers here and there, especially if you're out to the coast. By Wednesday afternoon, our next disturbance is right on our heels. That continues to press in for your Thursday morning, bringing in a decent amount of rain and even the chance for some mountain snow by Thursday late morning. Much of that wet weather as of now is anticipated to press its way further to the east. But for that late week forecast, we are under an active pattern as our upper level trough continues to swing to the east, allowing for some travel delays likely as you move into the Four Corners. So as we wrap up here, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you are going to be in that wet zone at the coast, periods of rain with temperatures cooling down slightly, then warming back up as we get more sunshine Friday and Saturday. Also to be looking at unsettled conditions for inland areas with your highs in the upper 50s for Christmas Day, topping off at 36 in the mountains on Wednesday, 32 cool out there Thursday, and a little bit of wintry mix Friday as that upper level trough continues to press to the east. We'll also be calling for wet conditions out to the deserts, feeling some of that chill, but temperatures will rebound for the late week forecast. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Dajia Swad. Back to you.
We hope that you find peace and love and enjoy spending time with all those around you that are important. May this holiday season bring some much needed perspective and downtime for all of you on the ground.
That's UC San Diego's Jessica Meir with a holiday message from the International Space Station. She and 3 other astronauts made this video telling everyone back on Earth how they plan to celebrate in space. They'll feast on dehydrated fruitcake with pouches of hot apple cider and cocoa. Meir earned her doctorate at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography before joining NASA. It was a great weekend to be an SDSU Aztec. On the court, the men's basketball team is now ranked 15th in the nation. That's because they just keep winning. Saturday, the Aztecs beat Utah 80-52 at the Staples Center in LA. They're a perfect 12-0 and one of just 3 unbeaten teams in Division I. The Aztecs are back at home Saturday to host Cal Poly. And the SDSU football team finished its season on a high note over the weekend. They beat Central Michigan 48-11 in the New Mexico Bowl. The defense played a big part in the win with 5 turnovers. SDSU finishes the season with a 10-3 record. This week on KPBS Evening Edition, we'll be revisiting the top stories of 2019. In a moment, we'll tell you about a special show we have planned for Christmas night. But first, the year in entertainment. From movies to music to scandal, David Daniel takes a look back.
It was a year of Disney domination. The mega studio, which already owned Lucasfilm, Marvel, and Pixar, completed its acquisition of 21st Century Fox. It also owned the box office, breaking its own yearly ticket sales record with more than $10 billion globally, led by Avengers Endgame, which made a worldwide record $2.8 billion. Domestically, Disney had 6 of the year's 7 top-grossing films, and that was before Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker hit theaters. Disney also started its own streaming service, Disney Plus, amassing more than 10 million subscribers within days of launch. But it wasn't the only new combatant in the streaming wars. Apple TV Plus also joined the fray, taking on more established services such as Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. 2019 did not bring George R.R. Martin's long-awaited last 2 books in his Song of Ice and Fire series, but on TV, HBO's Game of Thrones ended its 8-season run with a lot of dead characters and more than a few fan complaints.
He's the puppet master.
The Lifetime documentary Surviving R. Kelly prompted new investigations of the singer, who now faces federal charges in Illinois and New York related to sexual misconduct. He's pleaded not guilty and is being held without bond in Chicago. Also in the Windy City, actor Jussie Smollett told police 2 men attacked him, yelling racist and homophobic slurs. After investigating, police arrested Smollett, accusing him of staging the assault, though he denied that and the charges were eventually dropped. In Los Angeles, rapper and community activist Nipsey Hussle was killed outside his clothing store. We also lost filmmaker John Singleton and actor Luke Perry, both to massive strokes, both in their early 50s. 2 Hollywood actresses were among the 50-plus people charged in the college admissions scandal. Felicity Huffman pleaded guilty, admitting she paid $15,000 to boost her daughter's SAT scores and served 11 days in federal prison. Lori Loughlin and her husband deny allegations they paid $500,000 to get their daughters into the University of Southern California under false pretenses. They face up to 45 years in prison if convicted.
You're supposed to hold me down, but you're holding me back, and that's the sound of me not calling you back.
The year's breakout music star, Lizzo. The relentlessly positive singer, songwriter, and rapper hit #1 on the Billboard chart with her self-empowerment anthem, Truth Hurts. She brought down the house with performances from the VMAs to NPR, led the Grammy nominations, and even popped up on the big screen in Hustlers. No wonder Time magazine named her its Entertainer of the Year. Selena Gomez returned with Lose You to Love Me from her first album since 2015, when she revealed she has the autoimmune disease lupus. And Keanu Reeves was everywhere in 2019, starring in John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, lending his voice to Toy Story 4, popping up in the trailer for the video game Cyberpunk 2077, playing an over-the-top version of himself in Always Be My Maybe, and even showing up in the trailer for the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run.
Hello. Call me Sage. Good name. I'm made out of sage and I am a sage, so it works out pretty well.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
And on Christmas night, we'll revisit some of the year's best stories from KPBS. Local arts, tech, and science. It's some of our favorite feature reporting from 2019. That's on Wednesday's evening edition at 5 and 6:30. And here's a recap of our top story tonight. The stormy week ahead for San Diego. It started overnight as rain moved through, causing a big jump in accidents across the county. Scattered showers are expected tomorrow, and then another system will arrive Christmas Day, with rain lasting through Thursday. As always, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.